Every remarkable journey begins with a single courageous decision. The decision to transform your thinking, not to think more, not to think faster, but to think differently. Because when you change the way your mind operates, you change the trajectory of your entire life. The world may have convinced you that greatness is reserved for select few. But here's the truth. Greatness belongs to those who dare to cultivate a mind of steel, a mind of clarity, a mind of unshakable discipline. And that person can be you. This audiobook is your roadmap to that transformation, not a fleeting burst of motivation, but a lifelong system for building a mind so powerful, so focused, so resilient that success becomes inevitable. A mind so sharp that doubt cannot penetrate it. A mind so disciplined that procrastination cannot touch it. A mind so clear that confusion cannot cloud it. In these chapters, we will reconstruct your mental framework, hone your focus to a razor's edge, fortify your emotional resilience, and cultivate the discipline and clarity needed to become a force of nature. You will discover how to nourish your mind with the right knowledge, master your inner dialogue, rise stronger from every challenge, and step boldly into the identity of the person you were always meant to be. This is not about surpassing others. It is about surpassing your former self, consistently, deliberately, relentlessly. You're here because you sense there's more within you. There always has been. Let's begin. Chapter 1. Fortify your inner. Foundation. Before you attempt to improve your habits, your discipline, or your confidence, you must grasp one fundamental truth. None of it will endure if the foundation beneath it is fractured. Most people try to construct an extraordinary life atop a fragile mental base. Then they wonder why everything crumbles at the first sign of pressure. But you're here for something greater. You're here to build a mind of steel, a mind that doesn't falter when life gets heavy, a mind that stands firm when others waver. And it all begins with rebuilding what you believe about yourself. The story you tell yourself. Your inner foundation isn't built from your talents or your circumstances. It's built from the story you tell yourself every single day. And that story shapes your identity. If the story is weak, the identity is weak. If the story is powerful, the identity becomes unstoppable. So the first step is to challenge the old narrative, the one that says, "This is just how I am. I've always been this way." No, that's the story you inherited, not the story you chose, and you have the power and the responsibility to rewrite it. The roots of your mind. Think of your mind like the roots of a mighty oak. If the roots are shallow, it doesn't matter how impressive the tree looks, a strong wind will topple it. The same is true for your life. You might force discipline for a few days. You might push yourself for a few weeks. But when stress arrives, you'll revert to old patterns. Why? Because the foundation hasn't changed. You'll trying to act like a new person while still identifying as the old one. That disconnect creates resistance. It creates inconsistency. It creates failure. Rebuilding your inner foundation means deciding who you want to become first, then aligning your thoughts and actions with that identity, not the other way around. Most people wait to feel ready, confident, or capable before they move forward. But you're not most people anymore. You decide, then you become. You act, then you evolve. You lead yourself, and confidence follows. The uncomfortable truth. Yes, rebuilding your foundation will feel uncomfortable at first. You'll question yourself. You'll hear the voice that says, "You're not enough." But here's the secret. That voice isn't your enemy. It's a sign you're entering new territory. It's your old identity trying to keep you in the same familiar place. When you hear that voice, don't panic. Acknowledge it. Smile at it. Then keep moving, because the moment you stop letting that voice dictate your life, everything changes. The bricks of a new identity. You rebuild your foundation every time you choose growth over comfort. Keep a promise to yourself. Take one more step when you feel like quitting. These moments, as small as they seem, are the building blocks of a new identity. And when enough of those blocks are in place, something remarkable happens. You start to trust yourself. And that trust becomes power, a deep, unshakable power. Your first decision. So today, make one decision. Decide who you will become, not someday, not when circumstances improve. Now, decide the standards you will live by. Decide the narrative you will accept. Decide the identity that aligns with the life you truly desire. Because once the foundation is rebuilt, once the inside is strong, the outside has no choice but to follow. This is where your transformation truly begins, not with habits, not with motivation, but with a new foundation that declares, I am becoming extraordinary. And from this moment forward, everything you build will stand firm, because it's built on truth, strength, and intention. Chapter 2. Train your mind. Like a 10. Champion athlete. If you truly want a mind of steel, you must treat your mind the same way an elite athlete treats their body, with intention, discipline, and deliberate training. Not occasionally, not only when you feel motivated. Every single day, consistent training is what separates the ordinary from the extraordinary. Your mind responds faster than your muscles. And here's what most people overlook. Your mind responds to training even faster than your muscles do. It sharpens with challenges. It strengthens with repetition. It expands when you push its boundaries. But you must train it on purpose, not by accident. The athlete's mindset. Consider an athlete. They don't show up to practice only when life feels easy. They don't quit because the workout is uncomfortable. They don't base their training on emotion. They follow a structure. Warm up, stretch, strengthen, condition, recover, repeat. Not because they enjoy every moment, but because they know the routine produces the result. That's exactly how you need to treat your mind. You need a routine. You need a discipline. You need a structure, not rigid but consistent, not exhausting but intentional. When you train your mind daily, you start to build mental stamina. Just like your body fatigues after physical exertion, your mind grows weary after prolonged focus, difficult decisions, emotional challenges, high-pressure situations. But here's what sets you apart. While most people let their minds collapse when fatigue sets in, you will train yours to remain steady, clear, and in control, even as the pressure mounts. That's what makes a person mentally unbeatable. How to train your mind like a champion. 1. Start with small, daily challenges. Activities that stretch your thinking. Tasks that improve your focus. Situations that push you slightly beyond your comfort zone. It doesn't have to be dramatic. It just has to be consistent. Read a few pages of an insightful book every morning. Sit in silence for 5 minutes and practice directing your attention. Do a task every day that feels slightly uncomfortable. These small actions matter. They build mental strength, layer by layer. 2. Add deliberate difficulty. Not stress for its own sake, but challenges for the sake of growth. Just as muscles need resistance, your mind needs obstacles. You grow mentally when you solve problems instead of avoiding them. You grow when you take responsibility instead of running from it. You grow when you handle pressure instead of breaking under it. Every challenge becomes a mental workout. Every setback becomes a training session. Every tough moment becomes an opportunity to strengthen the most powerful tool you possess, your mind. 3. Train smart. Not just hard athletes don't just train hard. They train smart. They rest, they recover. They fuel their bodies with the right nutrients. Your mind needs the same care. Rest is part of the training. Silence is part of the training. Unplugging, reflecting, and giving yourself space to think. It's all part of the process. A tired mind cannot perform at its best. Forcing yourself to push without rest leads to burnout, not brilliance. So allow your mind to breathe. Let it recharge so it can return stronger. The power of repetition. Training. Your mind also requires repetition. You don't become mentally disciplined by doing something once. You become disciplined by doing it repeatedly until it becomes your new default. That's how mental habits are formed. And when the right habits become automatic, your life begins to change naturally, effortlessly. Confidence comes from training. Let's address something many people ignore. Confidence comes from training, not from luck, talent, or positive thinking alone. Confidence is built the same way physical strength is built, through repetition, effort, and showing yourself what you're capable of. Every time you complete something difficult, your mind whispers, "See, you can do more than you think." And that whisper grows louder each day until it becomes the voice that leads your life. The shift that changes everything. When you start treating your mind like a champion athlete treats their body, something shifts. You stop fearing challenges. You seek them out. You stop avoiding discomfort. You use it. You stop waiting for strength. You build it slowly, steadily, intentionally. This is how you rise above the ordinary. This is how you develop a mind so strong, so trained, so conditioned that doubt has no place to land. And when you train long enough and consistently enough, what once felt impossible becomes your new normal. That's when you'll know you're no longer trying to build a superhuman mind. You're living with one. Chapter 3. Silence the noise. Sharpen your focus. If there's one skill that separates a scattered mind from a masterful one, it's focus. The ability to lock in, to center yourself, to direct your attention with purpose instead of letting it be pulled in every direction. Here's the truth. You can't build a powerful life if your mind is constantly distracted. You can't build momentum if your thoughts are always jumping from one thing to another. Focus is the gateway to clarity, productivity, confidence, and even peace. But focus doesn't appear by magic. You have to create it by eliminating the mental noise that slowly erodes your attention, energy, and potential. The enemy of focus, mental noise. Let's start with an honest question. How often do you feel mentally overloaded? Not physically tired, but mentally drained. Your mind buzzing with too many thoughts, too many inputs, too many worries, too many unfinished tasks. That's mental noise. And mental noise is the number one enemy of focus. It drains you. It scatters you. It keeps you busy, but unproductive. It makes you feel like you're working hard, but you're not moving forward. You're simply reacting, not directing. But you're here because you're ready to operate differently. You're ready to take control of your attention and build a mind that listens when you speak to it. Where your attention leaks. Eliminating mental noise begins with recognizing where your attention leaks. And the biggest leak for most people is constant stimulation, notifications, endless scrolling, constant task switching, checking your phone every few minutes. These habits are training your mind to be unfocused. You're conditioning your brain to crave distractions. You're teaching it that it doesn't have to stay with one thought for long. And over time, this weakens your ability to concentrate. You might feel connected, but you're not connected to your goals. You're connected to noise. How to strengthen your focus. 1. Embrace intentional silence. To strengthen your focus, you need to reverse this conditioning. You need to teach your mind to stay, hold, dive deeper instead of jumping away, and that begins with intentional silence, not hours of silence. Just a few minutes each day where you sit without stimulation. No phone, no talking, no noise, just breathing, just being. At first, it will feel uncomfortable because your mind is used to chaos. But stay with it. That discomfort is actually your brain detoxing. It's shedding the noise. Silence isn't just the absence of sound. It's the vacuum that pulls clarity in. 2. Simplify your mental environment. Most people carry too many open loops, unfinished tasks, unresolved decisions, disorganized thoughts. Every open loop consumes a piece of your mental space, and when you have too many, focus becomes nearly impossible. The solution? Do a mental reset. Write down everything that's cluttering your mind. Get it out of your head and onto paper. When you externalize the noise, your mind can breathe again. You don't have to solve everything immediately. You just need to remove the weight of carrying it all. 3. Do one thing at a time, not 2, not 5. 1. Multitasking is a myth. Your brain can't handle 2 complex tasks simultaneously. All it does is switch rapidly between them, burning energy, lowering focus, and reducing the quality of your thinking. When you choose one task and give it your full attention, something incredible happens. Your mind becomes sharper. You enter a flow state, you feel present, and you finish what you start. That alone will transform your life. Master your inner dialogue. Your self-talk can either be mental noise or mental clarity. If your inner voice constantly jumps between fears, what-ifs, comparisons, past mistakes, how can you expect to focus? You can't. So begin training your inner voice. When your thoughts start spiraling, pause, breathe. Replace the noise with a simple directive. Focus on what matters now. Repeat it again and again. Over time, your mind listens. Your mind obeys. Focus equals energy equals growth. Here's the deeper truth. Focus isn't just about attention, it's about energy. Where your attention goes, your energy flows. And where your energy flows, your life grows. If your attention is scattered, your energy is scattered. If your attention is disciplined, your energy becomes a force. That's why focused people move faster, achieve more, stay calmer. Their minds are aligned. Their energy is directed. Nothing is wasted. Protect your mental space. You also need boundaries. Real boundaries that protect your mental space. Turn off unnecessary notifications. Limit your exposure to negativity. Reduce time with people who drain your energy. Guard your mind as fiercely as you would guard something precious, because your mind is precious. It's the engine that powers everything you do. The power of practice. Here's a simple truth many overlook. Focus grows with practice. The more you train it, the stronger it becomes. What feels difficult today becomes natural tomorrow. What feels impossible next week becomes your new normal. You are reshaping how your brain works. You are mastering your attention. You are lowering the noise and raising the clarity. And the moment clarity rises, everything becomes easier. Your decisions, your goals, your emotions, your entire life. The quiet power of a focused mind. A superhuman mind isn't louder, it's quieter. It isn't filled with chaos, it's organized. It isn't distracted, it's intentional. You don't need a million thoughts. You need the right thoughts. You don't need more noise, you need more focus. And the more you eliminate the noise, the more your potential comes into view. The more you train your focus, the more powerful your mind becomes. Eventually, you'll look back and realize something important. You didn't just eliminate mental noise. You reclaimed your mind. You took back control, and now you get to decide where your attention goes, where your energy flows, how your future grows. Chapter 4. Elevate your thoughts. Elevate your life. Every transformation begins in the mind long before it appears in your actions, habits, or results. And that's what most people misunderstand. They try to fix their lives by working harder, pushing more, grinding longer. Yet, they never examine the thoughts that created their current reality in the first place. You can't upgrade your life if you're operating with outdated thinking. You can't reach a higher level if your thoughts are stuck in old patterns. Your thoughts are the command center. They direct how you feel, how you act. Ultimately, what you allow or reject in your life. So if you want real change, deep, lasting change, it begins with upgrading how you think. The lens of your mind. Your thoughts create the lens through which you see the world. If the lens is cloudy, everything looks distorted. Opportunities seem risky. Goals look impossible. Failure appears permanent. But when you clean the lens, when you upgrade your thoughts, everything becomes clearer. You start seeing possibilities where you once saw obstacles. You start recognizing strengths where you once saw limitations. You start believing in progress where you once believed in struggle. That shift isn't magic. It's not luck. It's the natural outcome of changing the root, not just the branches. Upgrade your mental operating system. Think of it like updating your mind's operating system. If a computer tries to run modern software on an outdated system, it freezes, crashes, slows down. It can't keep up. The same happens to you. You're trying to reach new heights with old thinking, and that creates friction, self-sabotage, a gap between what you want and what you believe you deserve. And that gap stops progress every time. Upgrading your thoughts closes that gap. It rewrites the script. It aligns your inner world with the life you're trying to build externally. How to upgrade your thoughts. 1. Become aware of them. Awareness is the first step to transformation. Most people walk through the life on mental autopilot. Thoughts appear. They just accept them. But you're not most people. You're building a masterful mind, which means paying attention to the thoughts that run through your head every day. Thoughts like, I can't do this. This always happens to me. I'm not ready. What if I fail? These thoughts seem harmless, but they shape your reality. They set your limits. They define your identity, and they need to be challenged. 2. Challenge and replace limiting thoughts. The moment you catch an old, limiting thought, pause. Question it. Ask yourself, is this thought helping me grow, or is it holding me back? If it's holding you back, don't let it stay. Replace it, not with empty positivity, but with truthful, empowering thinking. Instead of, I can't do this. Try, I can learn this. I always mess up. Try, I'm improving every day. I'm not ready. Try, I will grow into this. These aren't fantasies. They're choices, they're directions for your mind. They guide your identity in the direction of strength. 3. Upgrade your interpretations. When something difficult happens, your interpretation determines your outcome. Most people say, why me? This is bad. This shouldn't be happening. But people with upgraded thoughts ask, what is this teaching me? How is this shaping me? What can I extract from this experience? Same situation, different interpretation, completely different path. Challenges become training. Setbacks become foundation stones. Problems become lessons. That's how a masterful mind thinks. Not because life is easier for them, but because their thinking is stronger. 4. Upgrade your input. Your mind is a mirror. It reflects whatever you feed it. If you consume negativity, drama, and low-value information, you will think in those patterns. If you surround yourself with small thinkers, you will think small. If you constantly absorb fear-based messages, your mind will operate from fear. To upgrade your life, you must upgrade what enters your mind. Read books that stretch you. Listen to voices that challenge you. Spend time with ideas that lift you. Make mental nutrition a priority, because what you feed your mind becomes how you think. Your thoughts must match your future. Here's another truth you need to hear. Your thoughts must match the future you want, not the past you've lived. You can't keep thinking like the old you if you expect to become the next version of yourself. The old thoughts may feel familiar, but familiar doesn't mean helpful. Familiar doesn't mean right. Familiar simply means repeated, and repetition is what created your old identity. Now it's time to repeat better thoughts, stronger thoughts, thoughts that serve your future, not your history, the outer reflection of inner change. As you upgrade your thinking, you'll notice something interesting. Your behavior starts to shift naturally. You procrastinate less because your thoughts are no longer filled with fear or doubt. You take more action because your thoughts tell you that you're capable. You stay calmer under pressure because your thoughts remind you that you're growing. You show up differently. You speak differently. You carry yourself differently. The outer transformation becomes the reflection of the inner transformation. The power of intentional thinking. Building a superhuman mind isn't about having perfect thoughts. It's about having intentional thoughts. It's about choosing thoughts that match your goals instead of letting old habits run the show. And the more you practice this, the more automatic it becomes. Slowly, steadily, deliberately. Your mind evolves, and when your mind evolves, your life follows. Every time. Chapter 5. Harness emotional power. If there's one area where people lose the most strength, it's not in their intelligence or discipline. It's in their emotions. Most people don't realize how much of their potential leaks away because their emotions are in control instead of being under control. They react too quickly. They get overwhelmed too easily. They take things too personally. They hold on to frustration longer than they should, and day by day, those emotional habits weaken the mind. But you're here to build a superhuman mind, and that requires emotional power, real emotional power, not pretending to be strong, not pushing feelings down, but learning how to master your emotional world so it becomes an asset, not a liability. Emotional power begins with awareness. You can't control what you don't recognize. Most people feel something, react instantly. Anger turns into arguments. Fear turns into hesitation. Insecurity turns into self-sabotage. But emotionally powerful people do something different. They pause. They observe. They create a small space between the feeling and the response. That space is everything. That space is where your power lives. When you give yourself even a moment to notice what you're feeling, you gain the ability to choose your response instead of defaulting to old patterns. And choosing your response is the key because emotional weakness is reactive. Emotional power is intentional. Emotional weakness lets the world decide how you feel. Emotional power lets you decide how you feel. That doesn't mean you shut off emotions. It doesn't mean you become cold or numb. It means you feel things without being controlled by them. Experience emotions but stay grounded. Can face disappointment, pressure, and even pain without losing your clarity. Understand your triggers. Everyone has them. Words, situations, memories, insecurities that instantly pull you into emotional chaos. But a trigger isn't a problem. A trigger is information. It shows you where your emotional work needs to be done. Instead of avoiding triggers or pretending they don't exist, study them. Ask yourself, why does this affect me so much? What belief is connected to this feeling? What story am I telling myself? When you bring awareness to your triggers, they lose their grip. They stop being automatic. They stop being stronger than you. You learn to respond with clarity instead of reacting with emotion. Take emotional responsibility. This means taking ownership of your emotional state instead of blaming others for how you feel. Weak minds say, "You made me angry." Strong minds say, "I felt anger and I chose how to respond." Weak minds say, "They stressed me out." Strong minds say, "I felt stress and I managed it." Weak minds wait for the world to behave perfectly so they can feel okay. Strong minds create stability within themselves. Emotional responsibility doesn't mean other people can't affect you. It means they don't control you. That shift changes everything. It gives you freedom, strength, the emotional independence you need to rise to your next level. Learn to sit with discomfort. Most emotional weakness comes from avoiding uncomfortable feelings. Fear, sadness, frustration, uncertainty. But when you avoid discomfort, you strengthen it. When you avoid a feeling, it grows. It follows you. It shapes your decisions. However, when you face discomfort, when you breathe through it, stay present with it, allow yourself to feel without running, you become stronger. You train your mind to handle emotional weight the same way you train your muscles to handle physical weight. You lift it, you hold it, you grow from it. Choose your perspective. Emotion is often a response to interpretation, not reality. Two people can face the same situation and feel completely different emotions because their interpretations are different. One sees rejection, the other sees redirection. One sees failure, the other sees feedback. One sees loss, the other sees a lesson. When you control the story you attach to a situation, you control the emotional experience that follows. And that skill, choosing a helpful perspective, can change your entire life. Emotional power in action. Here's the clarity you need. Emotional power doesn't mean you never break down. It doesn't mean you never struggle or feel overwhelmed. Emotional power means you don't stay broken. You don't stay stuck. You don't let temporary feelings create permanent decisions. You acknowledge the emotion. Breathe through it. Rise above it. The strength of a mastered mind. A superhuman mind isn't built by avoiding emotions, but by mastering them. It's built by stabilizing yourself when the world feels unstable, responding with clarity when chaos tries to pull you in, being grounded, steady, and intentional even when your feelings are loud. You are capable of emotional power. You are capable of controlling your reactions, feeling deeply without being overwhelmed, and every time you practice emotional awareness, emotional responsibility, emotional patience, emotional courage, you strengthen the part of you that nothing can shake. That is emotional power, and that is part of building the mind you're creating right now. Chapter 6. The Courage to Think for Yourself. One of the most powerful shifts you can make is learning to think independently. Not just think privately, not just think quietly, but think for yourself, courageously, without needing the world's approval to validate your thoughts. Most people never do this. They follow the crowd, repeat opinions, adopt beliefs without questioning them, move with the majority because it feels safe. But safety isn't strength. Safety isn't growth. Safety isn't freedom. If you want a superhuman mind, you must be willing to stand alone in your thinking long before your results prove you right. The courage of independent thinking. Independent thinking isn't easy. It requires courage. Real courage. Because the moment you think differently, you risk being misunderstood, being judged, stepping outside the comfort of agreement. And that's where most people freeze. They silence themselves, shrink, choose comfort over truth. But understand this. Every extraordinary life is built on the back of unpopular decisions, unconventional thoughts. The willingness to trust your own mind even when nobody else sees what you see. Question your assumptions. Thinking independently starts with questioning your assumptions. Not everything you grew up believing is true. Not every opinion you've absorbed is accurate. Not every fact you've carried is based in reality. Your mind is full of beliefs handed to you by your environment, your culture, your family, your past experiences, but those beliefs were formed without your permission. Now you get to decide what stays, what doesn't, what aligns with the person you're becoming. That's the first step of independence, intentional thinking instead of inherited thinking. Trust your inner voice. You have instincts for a reason. You have insights for a reason. You have the ability to sense direction, opportunity, danger before the world catches up. But if you're constantly drowning in noise, other people's opinions, online debates, social pressure, you'll never hear your own voice clearly, and if you never hear your own voice, you'll end up living someone else's life. Independent thinkers don't ignore advice, but they don't depend on it either. Gather information, but they form their own conclusions. Listen, but they decide for themselves. Evaluate, don't absorb. Let's be clear. Independent thinking doesn't mean isolating yourself. It doesn't mean rejecting every idea that isn't yours. It means evaluating ideas instead of absorbing them unconsciously. Using your own judgment, not outsourcing it. Independent thinkers are open-minded but self-directed. They learn from everyone but follow no one blindly. Ask better questions. To strengthen this skill, you must practice asking better questions. Great thinkers don't just accept what they see. They dig deeper. They ask, why? What else? Is this really true? Does this make sense for me? What evidence supports this? What's the long-term consequence? Questions open the mind. Questions reveal truth. Questions separate the thinker from the follower. The world is filled with people who want to be told what to think. A superhuman mind refuses that. It chooses curiosity over obedience, depth over convenience. The emotional strength of independent thinking. Independent thinking also requires emotional strength. Why? Because thinking differently often triggers resistance from others. People may question you, some may disagree, some may mock or criticize. Not because you're wrong, but because your independence exposes their dependence. Most people prefer conformity because it saves them from accountability. When you break away from that, you remind them of the freedom they're afraid to claim. And sometimes they respond with discomfort, pushback. That's why courage is essential. You must be willing to continue thinking for yourself even when others don't understand. Better decisions through independence. Here's another truth. Independent thinking leads to better decisions. Always. When you make a decision based on someone else's opinions, you have to live with the consequences while they move on with their life. But when a decision comes from your own clarity, your own judgment, right or wrong, you grow from it, learn from it, evolve from it, and over time, your ability to make strong decisions becomes one of your greatest strengths. Confidence comes from seeing your own judgment work in the real world. The power of solitude. One powerful way to practice independent thinking is to spend time alone with your ideas. No distractions, no external voices, just you and your thoughts. When you think without influence, you start to understand what you truly believe, what matters to you, what direction feels right. Solitude isn't loneliness. Solitude is mental freedom. It's where your deepest ideas surface. It's where clarity lives. Be comfortable being early. Independent thinking also means being okay with being early. Sometimes you will. See things before others do. Believe in yourself before others believe in you. Sense opportunities that others overlook. That's the nature of independent thought. It's ahead of the crowd, and most people can't imagine what they haven't seen yet. But your job isn't to convince them. Your job is to trust your mind enough to walk the path before the results appear. That's courage. That's leadership. That's how extraordinary lives are built. The doorway to expansion. You have the ability to think independently. You have the courage to question, choose, decide. Trust your own reasoning. And the more you lean into this, the stronger your mind becomes. You stop following. You start leading. Yourself first, your life second, and eventually others too. Independent thinking isn't just a skill, it's a doorway. And once you step through it, your entire world begins to expand. Chapter 7. Discipline as your superpower. If there's one trait that will change everything for you, your habits, your confidence, your identity, your results, it's discipline. Discipline is the bridge between who you are now and who you know you can become. And despite what many think, discipline isn't about punishment, suffering, forcing yourself into misery. Discipline is simply this: the ability to do what needs to be done even when you don't feel like it. That's all. And because most people only act when they feel motivated, discipline becomes a superpower, a truly rare advantage. Discipline is built, not born. But here's the truth you need to hear. Discipline isn't something you just have. It's something you build. It grows through repetition, choices, consistency, and the more you practice it, the easier it becomes. The more you strengthen it, the more you realize. Discipline isn't restrictive. It's liberating. It frees you from the chaos of inconsistency, the prison of excuses, the limits of your old self. The myth of willpower. Let's start with the biggest misconception. People think disciplined people have stronger willpower. No, they have stronger systems. They design their environment, habits, routines to support the person they want to be. They make the right choice, the easy choice. They don't rely on feeling ready. They rely on structure. That's the secret. Structure creates momentum. Momentum builds discipline. Discipline creates results. Discipline is a series of promises, Think about this. Discipline is nothing more than a series of small promises you make to yourself every day. Wake up at the time you said you would. Do the task you said you'd do. Follow the plan you said you cared about. These are small promises, but each one builds trust, identity. Every time you keep a promise to yourself, your mind becomes stronger. Every time you break one, you weaken that inner trust. And a superhuman mind is built on unshakable self-trust. Discipline is how you create that trust. Perfection is the enemy of discipline. Another important part of discipline is removing the idea that you need to be perfect. Perfection destroys discipline because the moment you slip, you feel like you've failed. And when you feel like you've failed, you quit. Discipline isn't perfection, it's consistency. No shame, no guilt, no drama. It's choosing to get back on track every time you fall. Just return to the path. The ability to restart quickly is far more important than the ability to stay perfect. The emotional side of discipline. Most of the resistance you feel isn't physical, it's mental. The mind says, I don't want to. Do it tomorrow. You're tired. And because the mind looks for comfort first, we learn to negotiate with ourselves. But negotiation is the enemy of discipline. So here's a powerful rule. When you decide something, do it without reopening the negotiation. Remove the debate, remove the back and forth. When you say you'll do it, it's final. That alone will transform your consistency. Start small to grow big. Another way to make discipline easier is to lower the entry point. People fail because they start too big. Try to do everything at once. Go from 0 to 100 overnight. That's not how discipline works. Discipline grows from small, manageable actions repeated daily. Want to read more? Start with 5 minutes. Want to exercise? Start with 10 minutes. Want to write? Start with 1 paragraph. Small steps remove resistance, and once the habit is formed, you naturally expand it. Think small to grow big. The identity power of discipline. Now, let's talk about something people rarely acknowledge. Discipline gives you identity power. When you act with discipline, you start seeing yourself differently. You start believing, I'm the kind of person who follows through. That identity shift is far more valuable than any external reward, because once you see yourself as a disciplined person, your decisions automatically begin to align with that identity. You don't need to force yourself anymore. You simply act like the person you believe you are. Discipline creates freedom. And here's the beautiful part. Discipline creates freedom. When you're disciplined, you don't live in chaos, behind the schedule, constantly overwhelmed. You gain control over your time, energy, commitments. And with control comes confidence. With confidence comes momentum. With momentum comes transformation. The compound effect of discipline. But understand this. Discipline grows slowly, quietly, almost invisibly. You won't feel powerful after one disciplined action, but you will feel powerful after a week, unstoppable after a month, unrecognizable after a year. Discipline compounds. Every small action multiplies into something greater. Your discipline, your superpower. You have the ability to develop relentless discipline. It doesn't matter where you're starting, what your past habits were. What matters is the choice you make today, the choice to take ownership of your mind and your actions. Every day, ask yourself, what promise will I keep today? Then, keep it. One promise at a time, one action at a time. You'll build discipline into your identity. And when discipline becomes who you are, doubt disappears. Excuses disappear. Limits disappear. Because discipline, true discipline, is the foundation of a superhuman mind. Chapter 8. Fuel your mind with high-value knowledge. Your mind is always consuming something. Conversations, opinions, entertainment, information, ideas. Your mind is being fed every single day. And just like your body becomes what you eat, your mind becomes what you consume. If you feed it junk, it gets weaker, slower, more confused. If you feed it high-value knowledge, knowledge that elevates your thinking, sharpens your awareness, and expands your perspective, your mind becomes powerful, not overnight, but consistently, quietly, unmistakably powerful. And this chapter is about taking control of that process. Your mind is your most valuable asset. Let's start with something simple. Your mind is your most valuable asset, not your job, skills, opportunities. Your mind. Because your mind is the source of everything you create, overcome, become. But most people protect their phones more carefully than they protect their minds. They let anything and everything enter their mental space. Gossip, negativity, fear-based news, pointless arguments, shallow entertainment. Then they wonder why they feel mentally exhausted, unfocused, unmotivated. Your mind cannot thrive on low-quality input. It needs quality, depth, nourishment. High-value knowledge is quiet. Here's the truth. High-value knowledge isn't loud. It doesn't chase you, scream for your attention. It's quiet. Requires effort to seek out. Intentional. And that's why most people never access it. They settle for whatever is easiest to consume. But you're building a superhuman mind. And a superhuman mind requires a different type of input. Not noise, not distraction, not mental sugar. It requires knowledge that challenges you and helps you grow. The power of books. One of the most powerful ways to upgrade your mental diet is through books. Books contain the condensed wisdom of lifetimes. Ideas you may never encounter in your everyday environment. They sharpen your thinking, improve your vocabulary, expand your inner world. Reading isn't just about information, it's mental training. Even 10 minutes a day can reshape the way you think. And when you choose high-quality books, books on psychology, philosophy, discipline, self-improvement, leadership, mindset, you're feeding your mind with ideas that strengthen your identity. The influence of conversation. Another powerful input is meaningful conversation. The people you talk to every day influence your thoughts more than you realize. If you surround yourself with small thinkers, you will think small. If you surround yourself with negative people, your mind absorbs negativity. If you surround yourself with people who gossip, complain, or quit easily, their habits will slowly become yours. But when you surround yourself with people who challenge you, think deeply, encourage growth, see possibilities, your mind expands, your standards rise, your awareness sharpens. And it's not about finding perfect people. It's about engaging in conversations that stimulate your mind instead of draining it. Even one conversation with someone who thinks differently can open doors in your mind that you didn't know existed. Filter your digital consumption. Another part of feeding your mind with high-value knowledge is filtering your digital consumption. In today's world, the internet can either elevate you, destroy your focus. If you don't control it, it will control you. You must become intentional about what you watch, follow, read online. Ask yourself, is this helping me grow, or is it keeping me distracted? Is this feeding my potential, or is it wasting my attention? Is this building my mind, or is it weakening it? Those questions alone will help you eliminate half the mental clutter you deal with daily. Growth requires patience. Remember, high-value knowledge isn't always instantly entertaining. Growth rarely is. Sometimes you'll need to sit with a concept until it clicks. Reread something. Slow down and think deeply. That's how real learning happens. Not in a rush, not in noise, but in deliberate, thoughtful reflection. The role of inspiration. Feeding your mind isn't just about information. It's also about inspiration. Inspiration wakes up parts of your mind that logic can't reach, reconnects you with your purpose, sparks creativity, reminds you why you're trying to grow in the first place. Whether it's a powerful speech, well-crafted audiobook, meaningful quote, story of resilience, high-value inspiration strengthens your mindset and keeps you fueled on the journey. Create space for new knowledge. But here's the clarity you need. None of this matters if you don't create space in your mind for new knowledge. You can't fill a cup that's already overflowing, so you must remove the mental junk first. Limit the noise, reduce the distractions, cut the useless input. When you create space, high-value knowledge can enter and stay. The shift in mental taste. And here's the beautiful part. The more you feed your mind high-quality input, the less your mind tolerates low-quality input. The more you learn, the more you crave learning. The more you grow, the more growth becomes your default. Over time, your mental taste changes. Shallow information no longer satisfies you. You hunger for depth, clarity, wisdom. And that shift alone is a sign of a rising mind. The life-changing impact. Imagine what your life would look like if your mind was consistently fed with ideas that made you stronger, wiser, calmer, more strategic, more aware. Imagine how much. More confidently, you would make decisions. More clearly, you would think. More powerful your identity would become. Feeding your mind with high-value knowledge isn't a hobby. It's a lifestyle. It's the foundation of personal evolution. And if you commit to it, even for a few minutes each day, your mind will transform quietly, steadily, profoundly, and that transformation will shape every part of your life. Chapter 9. The Power of Long-Term. Thinking. One of the greatest unlocks for building a superhuman mind is learning to stretch your thinking beyond the moment you're in. Most people think in days. Some think in weeks. A few think in months. Very few think in years. But the rarest, the strongest, the most powerful minds think in decades. They don't obsess over immediate results. Panic when something takes longer than expected. They understand that meaningful growth takes time, real time, and they build their lives with patience, purpose, long-term strategy. The shift in perspective. When you think in decades, something shifts inside you. Your stress decreases. Your urgency becomes healthy instead of frantic. Your decisions become smarter, calmer, wiser. You stop chasing everything. Start choosing with intention. You stop comparing your timeline to someone else's because you understand that you're building something lasting, not something quick. Thinking long-term gives you freedom, the freedom to grow at a natural pace. Stay consistent long after motivation fades. Improve without pressure. The danger of short-term thinking. When you focus only on immediate results, you become reactive, easily discouraged, quick to quit. You bounce from idea to idea because nothing feels fast enough. You start believing something is wrong with you simply because the results aren't instant. But nothing great is instant. Skills aren't instant. Mastery isn't instant. Confidence isn't instant. A strong identity is not instant. These things require repetition, endurance, patience, and when you embrace long-term thinking, you finally give yourself permission to grow the way humans are supposed to grow, step by step, layer by layer. The tree analogy. Think about a tree. It doesn't grow tall in a single season. It takes years, quiet years, slow years of root building before the growth becomes visible. If you judged the tree in its first months, you'd think nothing was happening. But everything was happening, just not where you could see it. You too have roots. You're building inner strength, inner clarity, inner power, long before the world can see the results. And thinking in decades reminds you that the invisible work is just as important as the visible success. The power of higher standards. Now, here's where this mindset becomes even more powerful. When you think long-term, your standards rise. You no longer settle for shortcuts because shortcuts don't last 10 years. Distractions because distractions don't matter in 10 years. Temporary applause because temporary applause doesn't build a legacy. You start investing in habits, relationships, skills, decisions that your future self will thank you for. Emotional stability through long-term thinking. One of the biggest benefits of thinking in decades is emotional stability. When something goes wrong, you don't panic, collapse. You simply say, "This is part of the process." You see setbacks as small events in a much larger story, mistakes as lessons, not failures, slow seasons as preparation, not punishment. Long-term thinking turns emotional turbulence into emotional clarity. Discipline transformed. This mindset also transforms your discipline. When you know you're building something for the next 10 years, every small action becomes meaningful. A single workout, a single book chapter, a single hour of focus. It no longer feels insignificant. It becomes a brick in a much bigger structure. You start to appreciate consistency over intensity. You stop rushing. You stop forcing. You start building with stability. The freedom from comparison. Thinking in decades also protects you from the pressure of comparison. When you focus on your long-term journey, you stop looking sideways. Stop comparing your chapter 3 to someone else's chapter 20. You understand that everyone grows at a different speed, and speed isn't the goal. Direction is, trajectory is, progress is. How to install a long-term mindset. So, how do you install this long-term mindset? Start by asking yourself long-term questions. What kind of person do I want to be in 10 years? What habits do I want my future self to depend on? What identity am I building? What skills will still matter a decade from now? These questions shift your focus away from temporary discomfort and toward meaningful growth. Then, align your daily actions with those long-term answers. Small steps, repeated consistently, aimed in the right direction. That's long-term thinking in action. The simplicity of long-term thinking. And the beauty is this. When you think long-term, your daily life becomes simpler. You know what matters, what doesn't. Your decisions become easier because they're based on a bigger vision, not momentary emotions. The gift of patience. You may not see the full impact of this chapter today, but 10 years from now, yes, 10 years, you will look back and see that thinking long-term was one of the greatest gifts you gave yourself. Because while most people sprint and burn out, you will walk steadily and arrive. Chase quick wins, you will build lasting strength. Give up too soon, you will persist long enough to win. A superhuman mind isn't just powerful, it's patient. It thinks beyond the moment. It holds the bigger picture. It chooses growth over speed. And once you master this, your entire life transforms, not suddenly, but profoundly. Chapter 10. The Art of Self-Control and Delayed Gratification. If you want to build a mind that's truly powerful, you must learn the art of waiting for what's worth it. You must learn the art of self-control. Because at the core of every strong mind is this one ability, the ability to choose. Long-term growth over short-term comfort. Long-term reward over short-term pleasure. Long-term success over temporary distraction. Most people fail not because they're incapable, but because they can't delay gratification. They want the reward now. They want the feeling now. They want the comfort now. And that now mentality keeps them stuck forever. Self-control is not denial. Self-control isn't about denying yourself joy. It's about giving yourself better joy. Joy that lasts, builds you, moves you forward instead of holding you back. Imagine two versions of yourself. 1. The version who responds to every impulse. 2. The version who chooses deliberately. Which one do you trust more? Which one builds the life you want? Which one can handle pressure, opportunity, responsibility? It's always the deliberate version, the one who pauses, thinks, chooses with intention. The power of delayed gratification. Delayed gratification is a form of mental strength that separates the extraordinary from the average. Think about it. Every meaningful goal requires waiting. Building a career takes time. Building a strong body takes time. Building a business takes time. Building confidence takes time. Building mastery takes time. But the world constantly tempts you with shortcuts, distractions, instant comfort. And every time you choose the shortcut, you weaken your mind. Every time you choose the right long-term action, even when it's boring, even when it's uncomfortable, you strengthen your mind. The first step, awareness. Self-control begins with awareness. You must start noticing your impulses. The impulse to check your phone, the impulse to procrastinate, the impulse to escape your emotions, the impulse to choose comfort, the impulse to avoid the hard thing. Most people act on these impulses without thinking, but the moment you pause, even for 3 seconds, you create space. And in that space, you reclaim your power. Those few seconds are the difference between reactive living, intentional living. The skill of choosing wisely. Next comes the skill of choosing wisely. When you feel the urge to act on impulse, ask yourself, will this matter in an hour? Will this matter tomorrow? Will this matter a year from now? Those simple questions break the emotional spell of instant gratification. They pull you out of the moment and place you back into your long-term identity. When you start making decisions based on who you want to become, not how you feel right now, you enter a different level of mental strength. Self-control is built through resistance. And let's address something important. Self-control isn't built by avoiding temptation forever. It's built by facing temptation and choosing the stronger path. Every time you say, not now, instead of why not, your discipline rises. Later, instead of right now, your confidence rises, and you prove to yourself that you can wait. Your future becomes stronger. The freedom of emotional independence. One of the reasons delayed gratification is so powerful is that it gives you emotional independence. You no longer depend on your mood to take action, external comfort to feel okay, quick rewards to stay motivated. You become the source of your own stability, and that stability becomes your advantage. Because when others quit, you continue. When others fall apart under pressure, you stay steady. When others choose pleasure over progress, you choose purpose. The gift of self-respect. Self-control also builds something else: self-respect. You feel stronger when you keep your word to yourself. Choose long-term over short-term. Don't let impulses run your life. Self-respect is one of the greatest gifts you can give yourself, and self-control is how you earn it. Start small, build big. Let's make this practical. Start with small acts of delayed gratification. Skip the unnecessary scrolling. Finish your task before relaxing. Do the harder thing first. Hold your attention a little longer. Resist the urge to quit when things get uncomfortable. These small acts. Compound. Create identity. Build mental muscle. The shape of your future. Here's the truth you must understand. Your future is shaped by the moments when you choose what's right instead of what's easy. Hold yourself steady while your emotions pull in another direction. Delay comfort in exchange for growth. A superhuman mind doesn't avoid desire. It guides it. Doesn't suppress emotion. It stabilizes it. Doesn't chase instant gratification. It creates long-term fulfillment. And the more you practice self-control, the more natural it becomes. Eventually, you won't have to force it. You'll simply be the person who makes strong decisions. You'll simply be the person who can wait. You'll simply be the person who doesn't break under temptation. And that identity, that strength, is what elevates you far above the ordinary. This is the art of self-control. This is the power of delayed gratification, and it will shape not just your mind, but your entire life. Chapter 11. Confidence through competence. Confidence is one of the most misunderstood qualities in the world. People think confidence is about hype, talking big, pretending to be fearless. But real confidence, the kind that lasts, the kind that carries you through pressure, challenges, and uncertainty, has nothing to do with pretending. Real confidence comes from competence, skill, proof. Knowing you can rely on yourself because you've earned the right to trust who you are. If you want unshakable confidence, you have to build it from the inside out, not the outside in. You can't rely on compliments, approval, admiration. Because the same people who praise you today may doubt you tomorrow. The same world that lifts you up can tear you down. But competence is yours forever. No one can take away what you've practiced, mastered, proven to yourself again and again. The source of true confidence. Think about the moments in your life when you felt genuinely confident. Not excited, not hopeful, but genuinely confident. Those moments came from one thing: knowing you could handle the situation. That knowing wasn't emotional, verbal. It was built from experience. When you've done something 100 times, fear doesn't win. When you've practiced until the mistakes fall away, doubt quiets down. Confidence isn't magic. Confidence is repetition. And that's why competence is the foundation. If you want to feel strong, become skilled. If you want to feel capable, build ability. If you want to trust yourself, give yourself reasons to trust yourself. Confidence that depends on emotion will collapse, but confidence that depends on competence, that stays with you for life. Competence doesn't require perfection. Now, competence doesn't require perfection. It doesn't require you to be the best in the world. It simply requires you to commit. Commit to getting better. Commit to showing up. Commit to improving even when nobody notices. The people with the highest confidence are usually the ones who quietly trained behind the scenes when everyone else wasn't paying attention. The 3 stages of confidence. Let's break this down into something simple and practical. Confidence grows through 3 stages. 1. Learning. 2. Practicing. 3. Applying. 1. Learning. First, you learn the basics, the principles, the foundation. You gather knowledge, you study, you observe. That's important, but it's not enough. Many people stay stuck here, thinking learning equals confidence. But true confidence doesn't appear in the learning stage. It appears in the next stage. 2. Practicing means repetition, mistakes, trying, failing, adjusting, trying again. Practicing is where you build the muscle memory, mental and physical, that forms the backbone of confidence. And yes, it's uncomfortable. Yes, it's slow. Yes, it requires patience. But the more you practice, the more competence you create. And competence becomes certainty. 3. Applying application is where your confidence becomes visible. It's when you use what you've learned. Step into real situations. Take action instead of overthinking. And each time you apply your skill, you confirm your ability. Reinforce your identity as someone who can handle it. Application closes the loop between effort and self-belief. The role of feedback. Another important part of building confidence-driven confidence is embracing feedback. Not all feedback is comfortable, but the right feedback is fuel. It shows you where to adjust, where to grow. It sharpens your awareness. Confident people aren't afraid of critique because their ego doesn't depend on being perfect. They depend on getting better, and that humility is part of what makes them strong. Focus on one thing at a time. Here's something you might not have realized. Confidence grows much faster when you focus on one thing at a time. Most people try to be good at everything and end up good at nothing. But when you choose one skill, one habit, one area to improve, and put focused energy into it, you grow faster. Fast growth builds faster competence. Faster competence builds faster confidence. Simplicity is strength. Keep promises to yourself. You also build confidence by keeping promises to yourself. When you say you'll do something and actually do it, you reinforce self-trust. When you say you'll practice and then you practice, your mind starts to believe you. When you follow through even on small commitments, you strengthen your identity. And identity-driven confidence is the strongest form of confidence there is. The destruction of comparison. Let's talk about comparison for a moment. Comparison destroys confidence, not because others are better, but because comparison distracts you from your own progress. Confidence comes from measuring yourself against who you were yesterday, not who someone else is today. If you're improving, you're winning. If you're learning, you're winning. If you're practicing, you're winning. Competence grows quietly. And so does confidence. The final truth about confidence. Here's the final truth. Confident people aren't confident because life is easy. They're confident because they've built the ability to face whatever comes. Confidence doesn't remove difficulty. It equips you to handle difficulty. Confidence doesn't eliminate fear. Competence allows you to move forward with the fear because deep down, you know you've prepared. A superhuman mind doesn't rely on hype, luck, external validation. It relies on competence, earned proof. Real confidence is built, not wished for. It grows. One repetition at a time, one practice session at a time, one courageous step at a time, and the more you build it, the more unshakable you become. Chapter 12. The Power of Silence. Observation and strategy. There comes a point in your personal growth where noise stops helping you, talking stops helping you, reacting stops helping you. And suddenly, you realize something powerful. The strongest people in the room are rarely the loudest. The most intelligent minds are rarely the ones speaking the most. The people with the greatest advantage, the people who always seem to make the right move at the right time, are often the ones who've mastered 3 quiet skills. 1. Silence. 2. Observation. 3. Strategy. These 3 skills don't make noise, demand attention, seek validation, but they will elevate your thinking in ways most people will never experience, because silence gives you clarity, observation gives you insight, strategy gives you direction, and together they turn your mind into a place where decisions are made with intention, not impulse. The power of silence. Silence is uncomfortable for many people because it forces them to face their thoughts. It forces them to confront their fears, desires, truth, insecurities. But the moment you get comfortable with silence, it becomes one of your greatest sources of strength. Silence gives you space to think, space to process, space to separate your real feelings from your emotional reactions. If your mind is always filled with noise, other people's opinions, constant distractions, endless stimulation, you will never hear your own voice clearly. When you practice silence intentionally, even for a few minutes a day, you sharpen your inner world, become more grounded, become more deliberate. You develop a level of mental clarity that most people never taste because they never stop long enough to reach it. Silence isn't empty. Silence is full of answers. The art of observation. Observation is the art of seeing what others miss, the art of listening when others rush to speak, reading patterns, behaviors, intentions, and environments. Observation isn't passive, it's active awareness. And awareness is a superpower. When you observe closely, you pick up details others ignore. Understand people better, not because they tell you who they are, but because you notice how they behave. Understand situations better, not because someone explains them, but because you see the underlying dynamics. Understand yourself better, not because you analyze endlessly, but because you watch your thoughts, your reactions, your habits. People reveal everything if you know how to pay attention. The way they speak, the way they move, the way they treat others, the way they handle stress, the way they respond to pressure. Most people miss these signals because they're too busy talking or thinking about what they want to say next. But you're building a stronger mind, and a strong mind learns to observe before acting. Observation also protects you. It helps you avoid unnecessary mistakes, see red flags early, understand timing, when to move, when to wait, when to speak, when to stay silent. Much of success is timing, and much of timing comes from awareness. The power of strategy. Strategy is what separates random action from meaningful action, effort from progress, emotional decisions from intelligent decisions. A strategic thinker doesn't ask, What do I feel like doing? They ask, what is the smartest thing to do? They don't move based on impulse. They move based on intention. They don't act just to be active. They act to be effective. Strategy requires reflection, thinking ahead, understanding consequences before they arrive. And strategy becomes powerful when paired with silence and observation. Silence gives you clarity. Observation gives you information. Strategy gives you direction. The unpredictable power of quiet skills. Imagine yourself walking into any situation with these three tools. You speak less, so you reveal less. You observe more, so you learn more. You strategize quietly, so your actions become calculated instead of chaotic. You become unpredictable, not because you're mysterious, but because you're intentional. And people can't predict someone who doesn't follow impulse. Let me tell you something many people never understand. Silence isn't weakness. Observation isn't passivity. Strategy isn't manipulation. These are forms of intelligence. These are forms of self-control. These are forms of mental strength. You don't always need to prove yourself, respond, react. Sometimes, the strongest move is the one you don't make. The smartest thing you can say is nothing. The greatest power is in waiting, watching, and understanding. The impact of quiet mastery. When you master these three quiet skills, your confidence grows naturally. You become less reactive, less stressed, less overwhelmed. You think before you move, which means you rarely regret your decisions. You hold your power instead of giving it away through impulsive reactions. You become someone who moves calmly, speaks intentionally, chooses wisely. These skills don't make you loud. They make you effective. They don't make you noticeable. They make you impactful. And over time, you'll notice something. People begin to respect your presence, not because you dominate, but because you carry clarity. They trust your decisions, sense your stability, feel your awareness, and they know you don't move without purpose. This is what silence, observation, and strategy do for you. They turn your mind into a quiet force, a force that moves with intention, sees with clarity, acts with precision. Chapter 13. Build an anti-fragile mind. Life will not always go the way you expect. You will face pressure, setbacks, disappointments, unexpected challenges. That's guaranteed. But the real question, the question that shapes your entire future, is this. Do you break under pressure, or do you get stronger because of it? Most people crumble. They lose confidence, lose direction, let the weight of life weaken them. But a superhuman mind does something different. It becomes anti-fragile. It becomes stronger through difficulty, sharper through resistance, wiser through adversity. Anti-fragile doesn't mean tough. It doesn't mean unaffected. It means you grow from the things that should break you. You become better, not bitter, wiser, not wounded, more capable, not more fearful. Pressure doesn't damage you. It develops you. Growth comes from struggle. Let's start with something simple, but often overlooked. You don't grow during the easy times. You enjoy the easy times, but you grow during the difficult ones. Strength is built when things are heavy. Confidence is built when things are uncertain. Wisdom is built when things are confusing. Resilience is built when things are painful. The moments that challenge you the most are the moments with the most potential to shape you, but only if you choose to respond with strength instead of surrender. Reframe your perspective on difficulty. To build an anti-fragile mind, You must first reframe how you see difficulty. Instead of saying, "Why is this happening to me?" ask, "What is this preparing me for?" That one shift changes everything. Suddenly, the setback becomes training. The challenge becomes education. The pressure becomes sharpening. When you see life this way, you stop feeling cursed and start feeling prepared. Stop feeling unlucky and start feeling capable. Stop feeling overwhelmed and start feeling equipped. Embrace controlled discomfort. Another key to becoming anti-fragile is embracing small, controlled discomfort. When you avoid all discomfort, small problems feel huge. Minor challenges feel overwhelming. Life feels dangerous. But when you intentionally expose yourself to manageable difficulty, whether it's waking up earlier, training your discipline, doing something that scares you, stepping outside your comfort zone, you build mental muscle. You train your mind to handle tension without collapsing. And just like physical training, the more resistance you face, the stronger you become. Think of pressure as a weight. You don't lift the heaviest weight first. You start small, you build slowly. Each repetition strengthens you. Over time, the weight that once felt impossible becomes your warm-up. Life works the same way. Every challenge you face is shaping your capacity. Every difficulty is adding something to you. Every struggle is expanding what your mind can hold. Stay calm under tension. An anti-fragile mind also knows how to remain calm under tension, not because you ignore your emotions, but because you understand them. When something stressful happens, most people react instantly. Panic, overthink, assume the worst. But an anti-fragile mind pauses, breathes, observes, gives itself a moment to regain clarity. That moment, those few seconds of composure, can change the entire outcome. You don't need to eliminate stress. You need to learn how to stay steady inside it. The power of adaptability. Another part of anti-fragility is adaptability. Life won't always follow your plans. People won't always behave predictably. Opportunities won't always look the way you imagined. But an anti-fragile mind doesn't break when plans change. It adjusts, adapts, stays flexible. Rigidity breaks. Flexibility survives. If you learn to adapt quickly, to shift, to re-strategize, to change direction, you'll always stay ahead. You'll move through life with a sense of inner agility that most people never develop. Setbacks as feedback. Let's talk about setbacks. When something goes wrong, most people see it as an ending. But an anti-fragile mind sees it as data, information, feedback. You learn what doesn't work, where you need to grow, what needs to change. Failure stops being a dead end and becomes a detour, one that ultimately leads you to a stronger version of yourself. Every time you rise after falling, you reinforce anti-fragility. You're teaching your mind, we bend, we do not break. Face reality, head on. Here's something important. Anti-fragile people don't avoid reality, they face it. They acknowledge the truth even when it's uncomfortable. Look at the situation clearly. Accept what they cannot control. Focus their energy on what they can. That clarity gives them strength, direction, keeps their mind steady in moments when most people collapse. The daily choice of anti-fragility. Finally, understand this. Becoming anti-fragile is a choice. A daily choice. A choice to grow instead of shrink. A choice to learn instead of complain. A choice to rise instead of remain stuck. Every challenge that enters your life is offering you two paths. 1. Break. 2. Build. You get to choose which one you take. A superhuman mind isn't created in comfort. It's created in adversity, shaped in pressure, refined in difficulty. And the more you embrace that truth, the more unstoppable you become. Chapter 14. Rewire your self-talk. With power and precision. The words you speak to yourself shape your life more than any words spoken by anyone else. You live with your mind every second of every day, and if that mind is filled with negative, doubtful, destructive self-talk, it doesn't matter how talented you are, you will hold yourself back. But if you learn to reprogram your inner voice, if you learn to speak to yourself with power and precision, everything changes. Confidence rises. Clarity rises. Action becomes easier. Your identity begins to shift into someone stronger. Self-talk is programming. Most people think self-talk is just background noise, something that just happens. But self-talk is programming. It's shaping your beliefs, self-image, ability to take action. Every phrase you repeat becomes a script your mind follows. So, if your script says, "I'm not good enough," you'll live below your potential. "I always fail," you'll hesitate. "I'm not that kind of person," you'll never push yourself into a new identity. But the good news? You can rewrite the script. You can change the inner voice that guides you. You can reprogram your mind with intention instead of letting old habits run the show. Step 1. Awareness. Start with awareness. Pay attention to how you talk to yourself, especially when you're stressed, uncertain, afraid. Do you encourage yourself or tear yourself down? Give yourself direction or feed your doubts? Most people are harsh toward themselves in moments when they need support the most. They talk to themselves in ways they would never talk to a friend. But understand this. The mind listens. The mind absorbs. The mind repeats what it hears, and it will believe your voice more than anyone else's. Step 2. Remove outdated scripts. Next, remove the outdated scripts, those automatic thoughts you've repeated for years. Thoughts like, "I can't do this. That's just who I am. I'm not ready." These phrases feel familiar, but familiar doesn't mean true. Familiar simply means repeated, and repetition is what gives self-talk its power. So when you catch yourself using these old scripts, pause, replace them, interrupt them. Step 3. Replace with empowering language. Replacement is one of the most effective forms of reprogramming, not with empty positivity, but with truthful, empowering language. Instead of, "I can't do this." Try, "I can learn this." "I always mess up." Try, "I'm improving every day." "I'm not ready." Try, "I will grow into this." These aren't fantasies. They're choices. They're directions for your mind. They guide your identity in the direction of strength. Speak like a leader. Another powerful part of reprogramming self-talk is speaking to yourself like a leader. Leaders talk with clarity, purpose, intention. Leaders don't say, "Maybe I'll try." They say, "Here's what we're doing." When you adopt that tone with yourself, you shift from uncertainty authority. You stop negotiating with yourself. You stop hesitating. You start directing your own mind the same way a powerful mentor would direct you. Tone matters. Language matters. Identity matters. Instead of telling yourself, "I hope I can stay disciplined," tell yourself, "I am a disciplined person." The moment you change the identity in your language, your actions begin to align with it. Your self-talk becomes the blueprint your mind follows. And identity-based self-talk is far more powerful than outcome-based self-talk. Self-talk during failure. Another important element of self-talk is how you speak to yourself during failure. This is where most people become their own enemy. When they fail, they attack themselves, exaggerate the mistake, turn a single moment into a story of unworthiness. But powerful minds do something completely different. When they fail, they coach themselves, analyze, adjust, move forward. They say, "Here's what I learned. Here's how I'll improve next time." They don't shame themselves. They strengthen themselves. And because of that, mistakes become stepping stones instead of self-inflicted wounds. The power of consistency. Reprogramming your self-talk also requires consistency. Saying a strong phrase once won't change anything, but repeating it daily, repeating it during resistance, repeating it during fear, that reshapes your brain. Your mind literally rewires itself through repetition. The more consistently you speak to yourself with clarity and power, the more your identity evolves. That's why affirmations work for some people and not for others. It's not the words, it's the repetition, belief, emotion behind the words. Align your self-talk with your future. And here's the final piece. Your self-talk must match your future, not your past. The voice that got you here cannot take you where you want to go. You must speak like the person you are becoming. You must speak like someone capable, disciplined, calm, focused, powerful. When your self-talk aligns with your highest self, your habits, decisions, behaviors naturally follow. Your inner voice is not just commentary. It's direction, guidance, instruction. And when you master it, when you reprogram it with intention, you build a mind that supports you instead of sabotaging you. Creates a mental environment where strength grows naturally, and you become someone who thinks, speaks, and acts from a place of power. Chapter 15. Step into the identity of the person you want to become. There comes a moment in every transformation where you must stop preparing to become the person you want to be and actually become them. Not pretend, not imagine. Step into them, own them, live as them, because identity is the final doorway. Everything you've been, learning, building, practicing. Throughout this journey leads to one thing: a new you, a stronger you, a bolder you, a more disciplined, focused, powerful version of yourself. But you cannot reach that version by staying attached to who you used to be. You must step into the identity of the person you want to become. The identity trap. Most people never do this. They change their habits but not their identity. Change their goals but not the way they see themselves. And because of that, they stay stuck in old patterns. You can't create a new life with an old identity. If you still see yourself as inconsistent, you will continue to act inconsistently. If you still see yourself as average, you will continue to make average decisions. If you still see yourself as someone who struggles, you will subconsciously recreate struggle. Your identity is the blueprint that your mind follows. Change the blueprint and you change the entire structure of your life. Define your new identity. So, how do you step into a new identity? Begin by defining it clearly. Who do you want to be? Not in vague, inspirational phrases. Define it with clarity. What habits does your best self live by? How do they carry themselves? How do they think? How do they make decisions? How do they talk to themselves? How do they approach challenges? When you can picture this person clearly, you give your mind a target, direction to grow toward. Act as if. Then comes the most important part. Act like that person now. Not someday, now. Even if you don't fully feel like them yet. Identity is built through action. Confidence is built through repetition. Belief is built through experience. When you act like the person you want to become, your mind starts to catch up. Your brain begins to adjust. You begin to identify with the person you're acting like, and slowly, those actions turn into habits. Those habits turn into traits. Those traits turn into identity. And one day, you wake up and realize you've become the person you were stepping into. Leave the old identity behind. But understand this. Stepping into a new identity requires leaving behind the old one. And that can be uncomfortable. Your old habits will pull at you. Your old thoughts will challenge you. Your old insecurities will try to keep you where you've always been. Not because you're incapable, but because the mind prefers familiarity over growth. You must be willing to outgrow your old self, disappoint your old patterns, break the loyalty you've built to your past identity. Consistency is key. Identity also requires consistency. You can't step into a new version of yourself for one day and expect permanent change. You must live this identity daily. You must practice it until it becomes natural. Think of identity like clothing. You wear it until it fits you perfectly, until it feels like a second skin. The more you live like your future self, the more your present self dissolves. The role of environment. Let's talk about something many people don't realize. Your environment plays a huge role in identity. If your environment constantly reminds you of who you used to be, it will be harder to become who you want to be. You may need to shift your surroundings. Spend time with people who reflect your future, not your past. Clean up your space. Upgrade your habits. Distance yourself from influences that reinforce the identity you're trying to leave behind. You can't grow into your next version if you're always standing in the shadow of your previous one. The power of language. Another powerful part of identity building is language. The words you use to describe yourself matter. If you constantly say, "I'm lazy," "I'm not disciplined," "I'm always stressed," "I'm not good at this," then your mind will believe you. But when you start speaking from your new identity, "I'm disciplined," "I'm improving," "I handle challenges well," "I'm becoming stronger every day," you write the internal script your mind follows. Speak like the person you're becoming, not the person you're leaving behind. Validation isn't necessary. And here's something important. Your new identity doesn't need validation. You don't need others to agree with it. Applause, permission. Most people won't understand your transformation until much later. And that's okay. Identity is an internal shift before it ever becomes a visible one. Don't wait to be believed. Believe yourself first. The courage of identity. Stepping into your new identity is an act of courage. It's an act of ownership. It's a declaration that your future matters more than your familiarity. And once you take this step, once you begin living as the person you're destined to become, you'll notice something remarkable. Life starts aligning with you. Opportunities align, habits align, people align, your mind aligns. Because identity always flows outward. It shapes everything. The beginning of your next chapter. This final chapter is not just an ending, it's a beginning. The beginning of your next version, highest potential, the life you are now ready to create. Conclusion. your journey to an extraordinary mind. You've reached the end of this audiobook, but not the end of your transformation. In fact, this is where the real work begins. The work of living every truth you've learned, every discipline you've strengthened, every mindset you've rebuilt. A superhuman mind isn't built in a moment. It's built daily, through choices, through awareness, through intention. And now, you're equipped with everything you need to rise into a stronger, wiser, more powerful version of yourself. You've learned how to 1. Rebuild your inner foundation. 2. Train your mind with purpose. 3. Eliminate mental noise. 4. Upgrade your thinking. 5. Strengthen your emotional power. 6. Think independently. 7. Cultivate discipline. 8. Feed your mind high-quality input. 9. Take the long view. 10. Master self-control. 11. Build real confidence. 12. Use silence and strategy. 13. Become anti-fragile. 14. Reprogram your self-talk. 15. Step into the identity of the person you want to become. These are not just ideas. These are tools, mental weapons, the principles that separate a reactive life from a deliberate one. The path forward. As you move forward, you will face moments where it's easier to slip back into old patterns. That's normal. That's human. But every time you choose the stronger path, even in small ways, you reinforce the identity you're building. A powerful mind doesn't emerge through perfection. It emerges through consistency. You are the architect of your mind. Remember this. You are not becoming a new person by accident. You are becoming a new person by design. You are not hoping for change. You are creating it. You are not waiting for strength. You are training it. This journey doesn't end when the audiobook ends. It continues. Every morning you wake up with discipline. Every time you pause to think before reacting. Every time you silence distractions. Every time you push through discomfort. Every time you choose growth over ease. The reality of an extraordinary mind. A superhuman mind isn't a fantasy. It's a lifestyle. It's a commitment to think deeper, act wiser, stand stronger than the world expects you to. It's a commitment to elevate your standards, habits, decisions, identity. And with every step you take, you prove to yourself that you are capable of far more than you realized. The world will notice. So as you walk forward, carry this truth with you. The world may doubt you at first. But when you're done, actions become consistent. Mindset becomes sharp. Identity becomes grounded. Doubt fades. It disappears because extraordinary people don't need to convince anyone. Their presence speaks for them. Growth speaks for them.